The Assembly Committee on Government Affairs will come to order. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Assemblywoman Anderson.
Present.
Assemblywoman Black.
Here.
Assemblywoman Brown May.
Here.
Assemblywoman Considine. Assemblywoman Dickman.
Here.
Assemblywoman Duran.
Here.
Assemblyman Ellison.
Present.
Assemblywoman Martinez.
Present.
Assemblyman Matthews.
Here.
Assemblyman MacArthur.
Here.
Assemblywoman Thomas.
Here.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Here.
Chair Flores.
Present. Thank you, Madam. Please mark Assemblywoman Considine as absent excused. Should she join us later in the hearing, please mark her present. We do have a quorum. Good morning, members. Today we are hearing Assembly Bill 111. As always, I want to remind you to please keep your microphones on mute unless you are speaking. Please keep your cameras on at all times unless you have an emergency. Just please give us a heads up if you have to turn it off. I want to remind those of you joining us this morning virtually, welcome to your Committee on Government Affairs. And as always, I want to remind you that all of us have a very unique setup, which is why you see us looking in different directions. We have papers, we have different monitors, etc. Please don't take that as a sign of disrespect that we're not paying attention. We'll be doing public comment at the conclusion of today's meeting. And like I said, we have one bill presentation that will be followed by support, opposition, neutral, and then we'll be able to get to you in public comment. Also, joining us this morning, we have our very own Speaker Frierson, who will be presenting Assembly Bill 111. Good morning, Speaker. At this time, I'd like to open up the hearing on Assembly Bill 111. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of what we have become familiar with as a hard-working Committee of Affairs. For the record, my name is Jason Frierson. I am the Assemblyman for District 8 and also the Speaker of this body. I'm here to present Assembly Bill 111, which in the proposed amendment that I'll discuss changes the composition of our Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission. But before I go through the sections of the proposed amendment, I want to express why I brought this bill forward and how we've gotten here today. Assembly Bill 111 represents what I believe to be a reasonable step forward in order to increase trust and accountability in how our current and future peace officers are trained. Overall confidence in police from 1993 to 2019 has steadily declined. A Gallup poll reviewed that public trust in various institutions saw a peak in public confidence at 64% in 2003, and in 2019 fell to 53%. Gallup also reported that trust in our law enforcement officers varies among demographics, with younger individuals, people of color, and women, that confidence was even lower. I believe it's important this session more than ever that we continue to have collaborative conversations about how we should police our communities and what perspective should be provided in training officers so that they're able to be effective in policing, but also be perceived as being accountable to communities that they police. I recognize that we've got a lot of work to do to rebuild trust, and it's two-way between law enforcement agencies and the communities that they serve in both directions. I know it'll take a lot of collaborative and collective effort to build that confidence. But at the end of the day, we all want safe communities and law enforcement agencies that value the perspective of our community. I also want to say that I think AB 111 represents, quite frankly, the way I think policy should be advanced. There was an original bill. I was reached out to by members of the law enforcement community, in particular, the Post Commission, and had extensive conversations with Director Sherlock of the Post Commission to come up with what I think is a better way than the original bill for sure. And I think provides an opportunity for the community to get involved and have influence. on how our officers are trained. But I think breaking down those barriers and having community and law enforcement working together and communicating together, I think it's always a good thing. And so AB 111, I believe, and the way that it's proposed to be amended is a way to modernize our police training standards. All states maintain a post board or similar entity, while every state's post board operates differently. In general, post boards create and manage training requirements for peace officers and are responsible for ongoing certification and continuing education. The amendment replaces the original AB 111, as I said, which proposed originally to make the post director position appointed by the governor rather than hired by the commission itself. However, after discussions with members of the law enforcement community, as well as post director Sherlock, the amendment proposes to take out the original bill entirely and add 2 civilian members to the commission with expertise and backgrounds that I believe would better serve the commission. Basically, Section 3 increases the post commission from 9 members to 11 members. In subsection 2, the additional 2 members would be appointed, one by the majority leader and the other by the speaker of the assembly. The current composition of post commission is primarily representative of law enforcement agencies throughout the state. And there's some other members that come from a list recommended by law enforcement agencies. However, what I think has been missing is a civilian voice with expertise in areas that aren't necessarily exclusively from the law enforcement community. And so in Section 3, subsection 2, it discusses the 2 additional appointees, which would not be peace officers, but would be civilians, and have expertise or backgrounds in one or more of 4 areas: implicit and explicit bias, cultural competency, mental health as it relates to policing, and or experience working with vulnerable populations. And it could be any combination of those. Personally, I see no better way to address the community trust in our law enforcement and give law enforcement an opportunity also to embrace and have that opportunity to make their case to the civilian community as well, than giving a seat at the table to provide the input as to how our police officers are trained. Lastly, in Section 3, subsection 5, the amendment adds that the governor, majority leader, and speaker all have appointees to the commission, should consider diversity of the commission in selecting appointees. It simply directs that they take those things into consideration when making appointments. Ultimately, the commission managing and developing training for peace officers will be better able to ensure that individuals making those decisions look like the populations that they serve to the extent that that's possible. This concludes my testimony in the basic layout of the bill. I would certainly welcome any questions that members of the committee have.
Thank you, Speaker Frierson, for those remarks and walking us through the genesis and the intent of the bill. Members, at this time, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions. I am looking at our chat now to ensure that I get everybody in the order I received them. We'll start off with Assemblywoman Brown-May.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for bringing this bill forward. I think it's an exciting opportunity to really address policing and how we get informed training through posts. So I appreciate that. Thank you. I just have a clarifying question. On page 3 of the amendment, printed out on line 3, and I first want to thank you for including vulnerable populations, because I think that's so important, and I appreciate that you've recognized that. I'm curious now, you have here persons with physical, mental, and developmental disabilities. And so I'm just curious to know, are we really, and I think I heard you say it, working to address mental health? So is it the intention then of the language to identify people diagnosed or experiencing a mental health crisis alongside of those who might be diagnosed with an intellectual or developmental disability? Is that correct? Thank you.
That is correct. And I recognize the danger, again, for the record, Jason Frierson, I recognize the danger once you have a list of, what you include, runs the risk of excluding the folks that are not on that list. I have been in conversations with some stakeholders about ways to make sure that that particular criteria is broadened enough to be inclusive, and I welcome that input. But the intention is to make sure that officers are trained on encounters they have in the community from various backgrounds, and so that would be the intention. There is another piece of legislation that is specifically looking at training for crisis intervention. So I think those two would be a good combination to make it clear what the intention is going to be.
Assemblywoman, do you have a follow-up? Assuming you don't, I see you nodding your head.
Thank you.
Next, thank you, Assemblywoman. Next, if I can go to Assemblyman Ellison.
Thank you, Ms. Chair, and thank you for Mr. Speaker for the bill. I do have one question. These recommendations are going to go to the post to make the changes that we see in the future. But like the Highway Patrol has their own post, and then Las Vegas and the rest of them have another one. So would this go to both training organizations for new training? Is that how you see that?
Thank you again for the record, Jason Frierson. I believe that Director Sherlock from the Post Commission is going to be prepared to testify, but there is one statewide post, and my intention is for that to filter down to be part of the training for law enforcement statewide.
Okay, thank you, because I thought that the Highway Patrol actually did their own, and Metro and the regular police departments and BIA did another. So it's good to know that. So thank you. And then one question, sir. Sure. I did not see that you do not have your plate up on your wall that I could see.
It's right there, sir.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And thank you, Assemblyman. Next, we'll go to members. I don't believe we have any additional questions, but if I accidentally skipped you, could you please unmute yourself and state your name for the record?
Mr. Chairman, Richard MacArthur.
Assemblyman MacArthur, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one quick question. On section 1 that was completely crossed out, one of the things there said the governor shall appoint an executive director. And I didn't see in the rest of the bill where the governor was appointing the executive director. So is that still in there someplace, or is the governor not going to appoint the executive director in this?
Thank you again for the record, Jason Frierson. As I laid out at the introduction, that provision that was originally in AB 111 was completely removed. So the bill has nothing to do with who hires the post director. The bill simply adds 2 bodies that are civilians that have background that I think would be valuable to the commission.
Well, I was specifically talking about the executive director of the commission. And so the commission's going to appoint their own director then?
Again, for the record, Jason Frierson, as laid out in the amendment, there is no change to NRS 289-500 being proposed with respect to the executive director hiring or appointment. That's going to remain as existing law has it. So in other words, don't look at the original bill at all.
Well, I wasn't, and it just didn't show that he was appointing a director in the amendment.
Because it's not proposing that the governor appoint the director.
Okay, thank you.
Members, any additional questions? Please feel free at this time to unmute yourself and state your name for the record. Seeing none, thank you, members. At this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to speak in support of Assembly Bill 111. I am first going to check our video conference here and make sure that we don't have anybody on video wishing to speak in support. I see none. Broadcast, if we could please go to those wishing to speak in support via phone on Assembly Bill 111.
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 111, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hi, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is Chuck Callaway, Callaway, representing Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. We're here in support of the bill. As Speaker Frierson said, trust with law enforcement and the community is very important, and we're always constantly striving to improve that. And I think this bill is a step in the right direction, and we're here to support. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us this morning, Mr. Calloway. Thank you for your testimony. We'll go to the next caller wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 111.
Caller with the last three digits of 611. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is John Piro, John-Piro, from the Clark County Public Defender's Office, but also testifying on behalf of the ACLU of Nevada. We'd like to thank the Speaker for bringing this bill forward. We think that adding perspectives on this committee will help rebuild the truth and trust that is necessary between the police and the community. So we are grateful for that. Civilians govern our military as an appropriate check, and I think it's time that we put civilian people on committees that deal with police more frequently as a check and balance. And so we're grateful for the Speaker for bringing this bill forward.
Thank you, Mr. Piro. If we could go to the next caller wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 111.
Caller with the last three digits of 417. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last three digits of 417. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last three digits of 125. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Steve Gramas, Stevegramas. I'm the president of the Las Vegas Police Protective Association, representing over 3,500 commissioned officers with LVMPD in the city of Las Vegas. We're calling in support of this bill. It's our belief that, contrary to an earlier enhanced trust between the communities we police and the police departments. We thank Assemblyman Frierson for bringing this bill forward. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us this morning. If we could go to the next caller wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 111.
Caller with the last three digits of 080. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, Jim Hoffman, JIMHOFFMAN, representing Nevada Attorneys for Criminal Justice. We support this bill because anytime you can address a problem upstream, that's better than addressing it downstream. So, if we all work to make sure that police officers have the best training possible, then we don't have some of the problems that we've unfortunately seen. And it's just better for everybody if you do it through training reforms, through membership reforms on the post commission. So again, we support this bill. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us this morning. If we could go to the next caller wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 111.
Caller with the last three digits of 196. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank
Caller with the last three digits of 196. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you, Chairman Flores, members of the committee. This is Eric Spratley, E-R-I-C-S-P-R-A-T-L-E-Y. I'm the Executive Director of the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association. We certainly are here in support of AB 111. Thanks Speaker Frierson for the amended version of the bill. And the addition of these two members would be a welcome addition and add new diversity and expertise to the commission. So for that, we are in support of this bill. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Spratley. If we could go to the next caller wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 111.
Caller with the last three digits of 668. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for your time. This is Sergeant Troyce, T-R-O-Y-C-E. Krumie, K-R-U-M-M-E. I am the Vice Chairman of the Las Vegas Police Managers and Supervisors Association, representing the sergeants and lieutenants and captains for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. We'd like to thank Speaker Frierson for bringing this bill. It is our belief that the most important metric in policing is public trust, and we believe that the amended version of this bill and the two added members to the post committee will go a long ways in establishing that public trust of which is always needed in law enforcement, and we call in support. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us this morning. If we could continue with support on Assembly Bill 111.
Caller with the last three digits of 318. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Chair Flores and members of the committee. This is Kendra Birchie, K-E-N-D-R-A-B-E-R-T-S-C-H-Y, with the Washoe County Public Defender's Office. I want to thank Speaker Frierson for bringing forward this incredibly important bill. Although it doesn't have a lot of changes within it, the changes that it makes are vital to ensuring that our public has trust for those who are engaged in police officer activities. This provides transparency and accountability and diversity within the post in order that will lead, hopefully, to trust in this system. So thank you, Speaker Frierson, and we support this bill.
And thank you for joining us this morning. If we could continue with those wishing to speak in support of Assembly Bill 111.
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 111, please slowly state and spell, or please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last three digits of 417. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Mike Sherlock, for the record, and I am the Executive Director of the Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training. I am here today to voice my support for the current amendment to AB 111. With this amendment, I truly believe the bill will enhance the transparency of the Post Commission while maintaining at the same time the integrity of that mission. And as such, I fully support this amendment. I truly want to thank Speaker Frierson not only for his hard work on this bill, but also his ability to understand the issues, listen to the evidence, and make changes that incorporate that evidence and truly address the issues. So again, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your work. And Mr. Chairman, please note my support of this bill. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us this morning. If we could continue with support on Assembly Bill 111.
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 111, press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last three digits of 759. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Greetings. My name is Jagada Chambers, Jagada. Last name Chambers, Chambers. My zip code is 89113. I'm a Las Vegas resident. I had the privilege to represent a previous city I lived in during Attorney General Holder's community trust in law enforcement program, I guess it would say. It was one of I was a resident of one of 6 cities named in that, and I invested a lot of effort and work in my city's community trust in law enforcement. I just want to commend the Honorable Speaker of the House, Mr. Frierson, for bringing this bill. I think this is a monumental step in establishing somewhat of community's trust in law enforcement. Again, I can't salute the Speaker of the House any more so than lifting this bill up and hoping that it's able to garner the support to become legislation. Thank you so much, and I hope the committee is able to have a good weekend.
Thank you for your thoughtful wishes and for joining us this morning. If we could continue in support of Assembly Bill 111.
Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you. If we could please go to those wishing to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 111.
To testify in opposition of Assembly Bill 111, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
And thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to speak in the neutral position for Assembly Bill 111.
To testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 111, press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you. Before we go to closing remarks by our speaker, I wanted to say it's always a great day when we can have ACLU, law enforcement, public defenders all call in support of a bill. I appreciate the hard work there, Mr. Speaker. I don't know that we'll see that again repeat itself this session. So thank you. Mr. Speaker, any closing remarks you may have?
I do, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I do strive to have this, although we don't always succeed with engagement from such a broad base of stakeholders, but I'm appreciative and grateful that we've gotten here. I did neglect to mention, and there was someone who had emailed me an additional amendment that was unable, who's tied up in another committee. In the subsection D that reflects experience working with vulnerable populations, including without limitation. There was a request that I consider to be friendly to to generalize that to say experience working with children, elderly persons, persons who are pregnant, persons with physical, mental, and developmental disabilities, and other vulnerable populations, just to make sure that we are not leaving anyone out. I consider that to be a friendly amendment. The other friendly amendment is Assemblyman Roberts and his request to be added on as a sponsor of the bill, which I also consider to be friendly. So I will be submitting that in writing for you, Mr. Chair, and for the entire committee. But I appreciate your time and attention and your questions, and look forward to vetting this policy further.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I also believe that during the support testimony, we may have had a very young member of our community, a baby, try to get on the record saying that they also supported this bill. So I want to make sure the record reflects that that young member also supports all the collaborative work. Mr. Speaker, thank you for joining us this morning and all the work. We'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Assembly Bill 111. And at this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to speak during public comment. I want to remind those of you who intend to call in that we want you to call in. We encourage you to do it. But I want to remind you to please ensure that your remarks are in general matters that typically fall within the purview of this committee, and that we are not opening debate on any previous bill or bill that we are presently hearing. This is a time for you to just come on the record and express and speak to the committee, make sure you're being heard. With that, broadcast, if we could please go to the phone lines for anybody wishing to speak in public comment.
To take place in the public comment queue, please press *9 now. Caller with the last 3 digits of 683, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Rick McCann, R-I-C-K, McCann, M-C-C-A-N-N, Executive Director of the Nevada Association of Public Safety Officers and a member of the Nevada Law Enforcement Coalition. My apologies for offering my support in favor of AB 111 during public comment, but I was hitting this darn *9 about 4 times. I still couldn't get through to you, so I thought, well, I'll use the public comment opportunity.
No worries, Mr. McCann.
So anyway.
If you could just give me a quick second. Let me just reopen the hearing so we can put your testimony in support of that bill. I understand that sometimes we have some technical difficulties. So I'll go ahead and reopen the hearing on Assembly 11, and we'll go to testimony in support. Mr. McCann, please continue.
Sure. I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. We are here very briefly to support AB 111 as amended. These areas of expertise have been demonstrated to be both needed and wanted in law enforcement. We believe this bill takes an excellent step to accomplish this effort. I would also like to thank the bill sponsor, Speaker Frierson, for bringing this bill and for soliciting input from the stakeholders. And with that, I would thank you and again, our support for AB 111.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. McCann. I know sometimes we have issues with our technology, and so we try to make it work and accommodate where we can. So at this time, I'm going to once again go ahead and close out the hearing on Assembly Bill 111, and we'll come back to public comment. Broadcast, please.
To take place in the public comment queue, please press *9 now. Caller with the last 3 digits of 303. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last 3 digits of 303. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes.
Gary North. G-E-R-R-I-N-O-R-C-H. Good morning, Chairman Flores and members of the committee. My name is Gary North. I'm a resident of Assembly District 12. I've been retired from CCSD since 2008 and as a full-time teacher, and I've been a guest teacher from 2010 to 2000. I'm a member of Nevada State Education Retired, NSEAR, and the Clark Retired Education Association, CREA. As a retiree on a fixed income, I know how rising healthcare costs are a continuous worry for many Americans. Many Nevada educators and other state workers who are eligible to retire continue to work because they have no access to Medicare, having never paid into Social Security. Many retired educators I have spoken with, use smaller doses of maintenance meds, liquor without doctor input to make ends meet. Unfortunately, even those with some coverage don't go to the doctor because they still can't afford it. Workers who dedicate 3 or 4 decades to the great state of Nevada deserve better. Please keep in mind active and retired state workers need access to affordable health care when they retire. Members of NSEAR appreciate anything you can do to help contain the cost of health care and medicine. We hope you would consider a study to determine the status of state workers and steps that could be taken next session to ensure all Nevada workers have access to affordable health care and medicine in their golden years. Thank you for your time.
And excuse me, and thank you for joining us this morning. Broadcaster, we could please go to anybody else wishing to speak in public comment.
Sure. The public line is open and working, but there are no more callers at this time.
Understood. Thank you. We'll go ahead and close out public comment. And as always, members, I want to say thank you for the work this week, the attentiveness. Next week, we'll be back here at 10 a.m. As we've done in other Mondays. And we'll have Speaker Frierson joining us again alongside of Lieutenant Governor Kate Marshall to present Assembly Bill 184. Please give yourself an opportunity to become familiar with that. If you have any questions preemptively or concerns, please make sure you reach out to the bill sponsor. On top of that, I want to remind a lot of you that we did have a lot of you with floor statements, and very likely you'll have those coming up. And I just want to remind you that Assemblywoman Anderson, you have the floor statement for Assembly Bill 22. You should have that on your desk. Assemblywoman Considine, you have the floor statement for Assembly Bill 48. Assemblywoman Thomas, you have the floor statement for Assembly Bill 70. Assemblywoman Dickman, you have the floor statement for Assembly Bill 77. And Assemblywoman Brown May, you have the floor statement for Assembly Bill 86. Just want to make sure you're all ready for that and we don't catch you off guard on the floor as questions come up and the speaker calls on you. Again, thank you all members. I appreciate the hard work. This meeting's adjourned.
Have a